Hyundai's Kona is rapidly developing multiple personalities. But rather than a psychological disorder, it's the result of a steady broadening of the compact SUV's range, following the arrival of the original petrol and diesel models in 2017. The zero tailpipe emission Kona Electric followed in 2019, and now it's pulled on the stringback gloves for a crack at the performance market with this new version, the Kona N. It's the third N model to be launched in the Aussie market, offered in two grades, both powered by a 2-litre Turbo 4 and riding on a tricky sport suspension, tuned with hands-on input from Hyundai's local product Boffins. We've driven it over a lengthy launch drive program, but if you want to jump ahead, here are the time codes. And if you're watching on YouTube, the chapter markers are in the timeline below. You can find the link to my detailed written review in the description if you're watching on YouTube. And if you are and haven't already, hit like, hit subscribe, share this video with your friends, and click that bell icon so you can stay on top of all our latest videos. But first up, what makes this Kona stand out from the crowd? The Kona already looks like a suspicious secret agent, scoping you out from the shadows. But this N version dials up the sports personality with these nostrils across the top here. Now bear in mind that they are cosmetic rather than functional. But what they do is move the Lazy H logo down into this N-specific grille. From there, the lower part of the front clip is completely reorganised to accommodate these LED headlights, as well as extra vents for brake and engine cooling. These 19-inch alloys are unique to the Kona N. These exterior mirror shells are blacked out. You can see the side skirts down below here with the red accent striping. The wheel arch extensions that would normally be grey plastic are body coloured. There's a spoiler up here, and the diffuser across the rear is flanked by fat exhaust pipes on either side. Inside there are sports front bucket seats trimmed in black cloth on the N and a combination of suede and leather on the N Premium. The sports wheel is part leather trimmed, as are the gear shift and handbrake lever, with blue contrast stitching throughout, and the pedals feature alloy finishes. The overall look in here is relatively conventional, although you do have a 10.25-inch digital instrument cluster right in front of you, and a same size screen for the multimedia over above the centre stack. And I love Hyundai's description on the inclusion of a conventional handbrake, so the driver can induce slides through tighter corners. There's nothing quite like this little SUV, focused as it is on performance and dynamic response at the around 50k price point. There's a handful of what you might broadly describe as competitors, with VW's top-shelf Tiguan R line coming closest for now. But the all-wheel drive T-Roc R, which arrives next year, will be closer still, albeit around $10,000 dearer. That said, $50,000 is a fair wad of cash, and you're going to want a full basket of standard fruit for that money. And the Kona N does pretty well. Aside from the standard performance and safety tech, the highlights are climate control air, keyless entry and start, LED headlights, DRLs and taillights, plus 19-inch alloys wrapped with Hypo Pirelli rubber. There's also Harman Kardon 8-speaker audio, including Apple CarPlay and Android Auto connectivity, plus digital radio, a wireless device charging pad, auto rain sensing wipers, rear privacy glass, and the Track Maps data readout and logging system. Then, for an extra $3K, the Kona N Premium adds power driver and passenger seats with heating and ventilation, a heated steering wheel, suede and leather upholstery, a head-up display, ambient interior lighting, and a glass sunroof. The Kona N is covered by Hyundai Australia's 5-year unlimited kilometre warranty, and a lifetime service plan keeps the annual service cost to $335 for the first 5 years. For all the details, check my written review on the CarsGuide site. At a fraction over 4.2 metres long, the Kona is very much a compact SUV. Up front, the feeling is snug, but that somehow complements the Kona N's sporty personality. And room in the back is surprisingly generous, especially given the car's sloping roofline. At 183 centimetres, I had enough room to sit behind the driver's seat, set for my position, without distress. Boot space is 361 litres with the split folding second row seats up, and more than 1,100 litres with them down, which is impressive for a car of this size. And there are numerous power and connectivity options. The details are in my review on the site. Safety isn't left behind. The Kona has a maximum 5-star ANCAP rating, with tech designed to help you avoid a crash, including a long list of assists, the main one being Forward Collision Avoidance Assist. That's Hyundai speak for AEB, operating at city, urban and interurban speeds, with car, pedestrian and cyclist detection included. Then you're assisted with everything from your blind spot and high beams, to lane keeping and rear cross traffic. Tyre pressures and your attention behind the wheel are monitored, with a host of other warnings joining adaptive cruise control and a reversing camera on the safety roster. If a sheet metal interface is unavoidable, there are 6 airbags on board, as well as 3 top tethers and 2 ISOFIX positions for child seats in the second row. In here is an all-alloy 2-litre twin-scroll turbocharged 4-cylinder petrol engine driving the front wheels through an 8-speed dual-clutch automatic transmission and electronic limited-slip differential. It features high-pressure direct injection and dual variable valve timing to produce 206 kilowatts and 392 newton metres, and a peak power boost function Hyundai calls N-Grin Shift pushes power up to 213 kilowatts for 20 seconds. It can be used multiple times but needs a 40-second breather to cool down between bursts. The official combined cycle fuel consumption figure for the Kona N is 9 litres per 100 kilometres. Stop-start is standard, and we saw a dash indicated average of, 9 litres per 100 kilometres over city, B-road and freeway running on the launch drive. With the 50-litre tank brimmed, that number translates to a range of 555 kilometres. So this is now the quickest in a straight line out of the 3 N models in the Australian market. It has launch control and will go from 0 to 100 km/h in 5.5 seconds, which is properly quick. And this engine develops its outputs in a particular way. You've got this broad plateau of peak torque across the mid-range, and then power has its own little tabletop up high. So there's always plenty of urge under your right foot. And there's this power performance button, a boost button if you like, here on the wheel. Press that, you automatically go to the lowest gear possible. The exhaust and transmission go to the Sport Plus setting, and you've got 20 seconds of it. Transmission, it's an 8-speed dual clutch auto. Of course you have these manual paddles, and it's been designed to minimise torque loss between shifts. So they're snappy and positive, and it's also in the sport modes adaptive, so it starts to pick up on your driving style, and if it determines you're having a bit of a crack, will start to shift up later, in fact right up to the rev ceiling, and down earlier, so it really starts to get in tune with what you're doing. So the exhaust is adaptive, meaning there's actually a mechanical flap in the system which will modulate the sound, and there's some synthetic support as well, but the overall effect, particularly when you go to N mode, is you get a really raspy kind of response like that. Suspension is struts at the front, multi-links at the rear. The springs have been stiffened up front and back, and the dampers are adaptive. That's managed largely through G-load sensors, and that's where a lot of the tuning for local conditions has come in, those G-load sensors and how they interact with the suspension setup. These sport front seats are nice and grippy, and over long stints behind the wheel, they prove comfortable as well. And in terms of the controls and just the general layout, everything is sensible, no surprises, which is really good if you're deciding to have an enthusiastic drive. And speaking of which, there are actually shift lights, F1 style shift lights, in the head-up display on the premium version and down in the instrument cluster on the standard N. That just helps you get more involved. It's a lot of fun. It's worth remembering that the N in Hyundai N stands for Namyang, which is Hyundai's sprawling proving ground just south of Seoul in South Korea. And it also stands for Nürburgring, and if you want a third N, Nordschleife. So the Nürburgring Nordschleife is one of the world's most famous race circuits, and Hyundai isn't alone in having an engineering base camp there to fine-tune their cars, this being one of them. And there's been a lot of structural work done, particularly under the front end, with extra reinforcement around where the struts are fixed to the car. That said, this is still an SUV, and what you're really trying to do is make a high-riding car handle like a low-slung sports car. It doesn't seem to make sense on the surface, but here we are. So this car weighs in at about 1.5 tonnes. It feels well buttoned down through the corners, and the steering is electrically assisted. And it shows just how far we've come actually with that kind of assistance. The road feel is good, it points nicely, and the rubber, it rides on Pirelli P0 rubber, which is marked HN for Hyundai N, so specifically for this car. And the electronic limited slip diff means that in tighter corners, when you really want to go out quickly, you plant your right foot, no scrabbling, no scratching, it just puts its power down and gets you going. It's really pretty impressive and a lot of fun. Braking is by ventilated discs, front and rear. The rotors are larger at the front and the back. And in N mode, the ESC is modified so that you can apply a bit of left foot braking and some right foot throttle. So the ECU doesn't have a brain explosion when you're doing that in an enthusiastic drive or on a track day. And overall, the brakes work really well. Nice progressive pedal. They pull the car up firmly, time and again. The Hyundai Kona N is unique in the Aussie new car market. Genuine hot hatch performance in a city-sized SUV with the practicality, safety and features to match its racy looks and sharp dynamics. Perfect for small families going places fast. Gubsheda!